We haven't seen him on the show in quite some time. I miss him. I can't quit him. I'll be honest. And he's back here, the Green Light Podcast host, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Long. Good to see you, sir. How are you?
Absence. You know what absence does, Rich.
My heart has grown fonder, and it's good to see you, sir.
That's why I like to give my wife space sometimes.
You have that sensory perception around your wife? Because sometimes I'm missing that chip, Chris. I'm not going to lie.
Absolutely.
All right. I'm going to throw this thing up generally to you. The divisional playoff weekend storyline, number one storyline. What is it? What do you got for me, Chris?
Number one storyline is the league. Like, if people think the league picks this stuff, they obviously don't, because you get Josh Allen knocked out of the playoffs. You get Jarrett Stidham in the next round. I don't know that anybody would have drawn it up this way. I think as the season went on, people are not shocked to see the collision course in the NFC West. And, of course, those championship games are always great.
Right.
Interdivision championship games. But the Patriots, I mean, that's something that's good for football, right? Like, the Pats are good again. And Drake May's fabulous, although, put the ball on the ground a few times, but he's the future's bright with him. The future's bright in Chicago, even though they lost, like, having a quarterback like that, some of the late game theatrics. I thought that game Sunday night saved the NFL's bacon.
What do you mean?
Because, well, the early Sunday game was so ugly. And Saturday night was just bludgeoning, and injuries have had, such an impact on this season, for San Francisco and Denver and the whole thing. So, you needed a great game Sunday night. I thought that was awesome. So yeah, divisional round, best weekend in sports. Some would say, although I like the wild card round.
Brother, I hear you. The games have been awesome. The national championship game followed suit on Monday night as well. Like the games they've been tight. And that Sunday nighter, the Bears and the Rams, it was the true nail biter, edge of your seat. And I said on the show Monday, I defy anybody who watched Caleb fading back 26 yards to throw a 40-yard, 14-yard touchdown pass the way that he did, that nobody cursed when they were watching it from wherever they were watching it, screaming out a four-letter word. You know what I mean? I defy anybody to tell me differently.
It's unbelievable because, and I think Caleb Williams, the ceiling is so obvious. At the very least, the Chicago Bears feel like, hey, the ceiling is what we thought when we drafted him. This he's got special traits. And I think all the concerns people had about his leadership or, his toughness or whatever it is, whatever BS people made up about the guy playing in cold weather. He went to DeMatha in DC. He's not from the West Coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's played big in the biggest moments. And he's led some really improbable comebacks, and he can make any throw on the field. It's just he has to get better at the mundane. And
the passes that are just open in the flat, or the easy layups. By the way, our radio audience has just rejoined. Chris Long is here, Greenlight Pod, two-time Super Bowl champion, right here on the program. He talking about Caleb Williams. Really, that 4th and 8 throw against Green Bay, down 11 to keep hope alive, forcing overtime, right? And were you surprised Ben Johnson didn't go for 2?
I was. My litmus test is usually, and I'm not going to kill him over it because, listen, they got to overtime and the Rams punted the ball. If you'd have told me the Rams were going to punt on their first possession of overtime, which I believe they did,
did, yeah.
I mean, then you're kind of vindicated there, right? Like, you're off the hook. I don't if the Rams had taken the ball down and scored immediately, like, then, we're having a conversation about it. But I also think, like, you have to realize Caleb, a couple plays earlier, had a bad read on the 2-point conversion. He'd struggled in the red zone a little bit in that game. And you take those things into account. I think everybody talks about analytics all the time and, what we do here, what we do. But, like, all right, take into account the fact that maybe it's snowing, the ball, like, take into account that the defense had the upper hand down there. And I also think for Caleb, like in the field, his magic is that if you play off coverage or you're in 3 or cover 4, or, you've got flats that are open, he breaks the pocket. And it's so dangerous because you put people in that bind, right? In the low red, and we've seen it a couple times, like late in games for him, he's not going to be the same guy just breaking the pocket and heading to the pylon because all the zone defenders are they're standing there. They're 5 feet away. So, I think sometimes people are like, oh, you go on you go for 2. It's automatic, like you go for the win. And my litmus test usually as a viewer is if I were on defense, what would I want the opposing coach to do? And I got to be honest, like part of me that gives credence to the idea that you should go for 2 is like, if I was on defense, I'd be like, please don't. Because I feel like you're at home, you've got momentum, you've got this dangerous young quarterback that I know he misread a play a couple plays earlier on the 2-point, but it would have made me very nervous. As a guy who bet the Rams that night and bought to 3, thank you very much.
Ooh, well done, Chris Long.
Let's cut the BS here. Buying points is cool. It's not lame. It's cool. But like I was like, please don't go for 2. And it wasn't just the math. I thought, the Rams were going to lose that game if they went for 2. Having said that, though, they're off the hook because the Rams punted the ball in overtime, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, there's no right answer. The thing I wanted to take away from that game, honestly, and the whole season for Chicago is they're way ahead of schedule. And I think the thing that they have that's like a cheat code is they have Dennis Allen, who if you see Sean McVay after that game mic'd up, which I think was really cool, some of the mic'd up footage they got in that game, some of the video they got is awesome. After the game, he's dapping up Ben Johnson. It's Byard. And then he gets to Dennis Allen. He seeks him out and he's like, dude, you kicked our ass. Dennis Allen was fantastic this year. And that group, the back end, the way they lived off the turnovers, but also the way they were able to manufacture pass rush without a bunch of great rushers. The Dennis Allen thing's great because his name's not coming up in any of these coaching cycles.
Brother, you nailed it. You nailed it. Same thing with Josh McDaniels, a cheat code as the OC. Steve Spagnuolo's been that cheat code for Kansas City for a long time. It's not great for the coordinators in question if they want to be head coaches again. But if you want to get something going, then you have a cheat code is a perfect way for you to put it at coordinator. And Dennis Allen, obviously, along with Ben Johnson together and Caleb Williams, you're just checking boxes for a franchise that had no boxes checked for quite some time. Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. Where to go from here with you?
Got to you by the Rams. I want to give my old team credit.
Go.
They won the game. We just talked about Chicago for a while. The front won that game in gotta-have-it situations, and you knew they had to win that game. You had to stop the run with the front, and on 3rd and 1 and some of these gotta-have-it situations, the goal line stand, they were great. That's all I wanted to say.
No, that's cool for sure. And obviously that Stafford throw from the opposite hash to Devontae Adams on the boundary, and where Adams grabbed it and dragged a foot. I watched that, and listen, it's not as impressive as fading back 26 yards and throwing a 40-yard, 14-yard touchdown pass, but my God.
Maybe more functional.
My God, that was unbelievable. And the Rams going to Seattle, best defense remaining in the playoffs belongs to Seattle.
It's Seattle.
Right?
It's Seattle. It is Seattle. Denver's great. Like, they're great. I thought Houston was like, it's a shame that Houston's not in this thing anymore. But Seattle, especially at home, they just jump you. They do this to teams, and I was on the ass end of these things for a long time in the NFC West. And, I think it was like 7 years running we lost in Seattle. And it always felt like, when the top comes off that place, it's hard to put it back on, man. Right. And when it happens that early in a football game, and I thought the Shaheed move for all these teams that sat on their hands, right, at the trade deadline, looking at you, Buffalo. Shaheed makes such a big difference for this team offensively, but also on special teams. When you go into Seattle and you're not the better team, which San Francisco is not the better team, they had to do what they did in Philly, which was win the toss, take the football, find a way to go down and score, take the air out the building. And the exact opposite happens. And when that happens, try being in that D-line huddle when you jump that team. And you're thinking the rest of the game, with this home field advantage in an NFC divisional matchup, that's like a dream for a defensive lineman. And I thought the moment of truth for San Francisco came so early. You think about like when teams that moment in the game where you're like, this is it. It came at the 50-yard line when they're going for it on fourth down in like the first quarter. And that's what they knew they were up against. And it was either going to be a close game or an absolute bloodbath. And, that was the moment where it was pretty clear it was going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, I love that Shaheed photo, if you don't mind, Hoskins, putting it out one more time, because you still see the smoke from the pregame fireworks in the air. It's 13 seconds in, and the smoke is yet to clear from the pregame action. And this is all the points that they needed on the night, because San Francisco only scored 6. And this is also a way, I had my fun saying, great job, Mike McDonald, to execute your game plan of not even needing your quarterback to throw with his bad oblique to win the game when you have this. I mean, to put it all together, and your sensibility that you talk about the D-line saying we're going to get off now. Just what a moment.
All day.
What a moment.
All day. I was always so jealous of the guys that played in that stadium, that rushed the passer in that stadium. I'm still jealous of my friends Cliff Averill and Michael Bennett and those guys, because they have legitimately the best home field advantage in football. And I think Kansas City is, there's a lot of lore there. But when you go to Kansas City, you have to play Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. Like, the team has something to do with that too, and I know it's loud there. Seattle is like, you can't hear from me to that wall right there. Like, me and my teammates would try to have a conversation. You could not hear it. Everybody talks about piping noise in. I don't know if they are or not, but whatever they're doing, it's working. That's the best home field advantage in football, and they have the best defensive football. And I do like them this weekend. I do. I think, like Belichick used to say, it's not who you play, it's when you play them. I think most people would have loved the Rams in this spot the first half of the season. They have not played their best down the stretch. So forgive me, but I kind of feel like Seattle's a hotter team right now. It all comes down to Sam Darnold taking care of the football. And by the way, he's the only guy in the divisional round that did take care of the football.
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. The narrative that the Patriots just won the AFC Championship game last week because Jarrett Stidham is starting. Where do you sit with that one, Chris?
Oh, that it's a foregone conclusion they win?
I mean, listen.
I don't like that talk. I mean, they're not going to talk like that. Vrabel's not going to talk like that. They're going to Denver, and they're playing a team that, Sean Payton is one of the best offensive coaches in history, in my opinion. And he's done a lot with a little before at quarterback. I mean, he didn't always have Drew Brees. He's, he can make, chicken soup, if you will.
Is that in relation to chicken salad, Chris?
Yeah, chicken salad.
Understood. Okay.
And I'm not calling Jarrett Stidham chicken salad, but this is not a big sample size. And
he hasn't started in 2 years, Chris.
Sean Payton, and I will say, one time I saw him start, maybe it was with the Raiders, I don't remember, but I was like, this guy's not bad. I mean, and Sean Payton doesn't think he's bad, because he finds the backup quarterback to be a really important spot. And that's a team that, they played their hearts out last week, and they deserve to win. And they're one game away. And you can sell hope to a team that's one game away. And especially a team that's got the guys outside that can strap you up, right? You talk about, how does New England's offense match up, right? I think one of the biggest question marks I have is, can the front hold up? Because we saw a little preview at home, and I think Will Campbell's going to be a very good player in the league. But Will Anderson and those guys, they got after that group. And In that football game, CJ Stroud puts the ball on the ground what felt like 35 times, right? And so Denver's going to take care of the football if they can. They're going to have a creative game plan. Sean's going to be pulling out the stops. It's the nothing to lose thing. And it's a front that's hungry and a cover group that can take guys away on the outside. Like, they can muddy this game up. So I'm not going to count them out. But to the people that say New England's just had it easy, so they're not a good football team, I think you're crazy. I watch this team and I see like an adult football team, and it's the Vrabel effect. It's the Josh McDaniels effect.
It's a Drake May effect too, Chris. That throw he made to Booty over Derek Stingley Jr. probably had a 1% chance of working. He put it in the only spot Booty could get it with one hand. That's no piker he threw over or threw towards. I mean, that's real deal big boy pants stuff, Chris.
It wouldn't make me upset if he won the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't. And when you look at what he's had around him, like a team with an 8-game win total or whatever it is, some people thought they might be a wild card team, but they're just, listen, from a game plan standpoint, early in that game to know if we jump Houston, it's going to be hard for them to come back. They're not built for that. Let's get aggressive. Look at the in cuts they hit and being able to handle a wet ball that Drake May dropped a couple times because of the rush, and he does need to be a little less comfortable in the pocket if that makes sense. Like the last 2 weeks, there's been a couple times where he kind of just sat in his lazy boy at the end of the LA game, and then last week where you're close to giving the ball up a couple times, and if Houston falls on that football in the red zone, who knows what happens in that game. But to come out, beat man coverage, be aggressive. The short to intermediate passing game is such a weapon in the NFL. They've got it. And they also have a guy who can take the top off the defense. So, and look at the way the teams become more trustworthy as years gone on. They played Pittsburgh early in the season, lost that game. They turned the ball over 6 times. Stevenson fumbles, all this stuff. It feels like Vrabel gives the group confidence, and it's like they grow up at like a 2x rate. You know what I mean? Like these young guys just kind of, he's such a great coach. And also think about having a DC that leaves because of a health reason, and you've got a new defensive coordinator, and he's kind of like, he's done such a good job in the playoffs. Hell, when are they going to start talking about him as a guy who gets interviews? Like, Core has done a great job. I mean, they said openly guys were coming up to him after the wild card game and saying, I didn't know what you were in. Okay? Like, he's done a fantastic job, and Milton Williams being back makes a big difference. So that team can win the whole thing.
A few minutes left here with Chris Long. I feel mandated to ask you this because I picked up what you were putting down before when you were talking about Rashid Shaheed being added at the trade deadline by Seattle, and you pegged the Bills as a team that sat on their hands. And I guess I'm mandated to ask you your thoughts on the Sean McDermott firing. And their reshuffling of their front office by keeping Brandon Beane and elevating him. Chris?
Listen, I like Brandon Beane. I do. He's cool. He's been on my show.
Yep.
Great guy. And I love the Bills. Like I do. Like I pull for the Eagles, and then I got my AFC side team, right? Which is it's fun to have a couple teams. They're all gone. All right. I think the roster, and this isn't caping for Josh Allen, because Josh, who's my favorite quarterback in the NFL, did not play up to his standard. And he's a big reason why they lost. And then the irony is you look around the weekend and you're like, well, which quarterback would you really have rather than Josh? Like, it's implied in his performance that this was his worst playoff performance ever. And they score 30 points against that defense. So you're sitting on a gold mine, and you've drafted, not that I think Pro Bowl really matters, but you've drafted 2 Pro Bowlers since you drafted Josh Allen. You know who those are?
Yes, Dawson Knox and James Cook.
I didn't know Dawson Knox was a Pro Bowler. No shade at my dog, Dawson Knox. Mm-hmm. But, like, that's it. And when you watch the roster, I would challenge you to of all the divisional teams that were left in that round, rank the rosters. And it's 2 years in a row, and I'm not absolving Josh because he had his part in that. That turnover before the half was unreal. And the pick to lock was vintage pressing Josh. But to get beat because 2 years in a row your back end depth is that bad. Like Sean Payton is like, we're going right at Dane Jackson. We're going right at the third string safety. Last year was Kyer Elam. You know, they have no pass rush. They can't stop the run. They got aging linebackers that have had to play above themselves. The wide receiving core is not good. And they did sit on their hands at the deadline. And, you know, you talk about like a home run swing would have been Jalen Waddle or something like that. And I don't know what it would have took. But the bottom line is like, I've watched this team win a bunch of playoff games over the last 6-7 years. I think they're one of 4 teams to win a playoff game in 6 straight postseason appearances. You're doing something right. But every year you look at the roster and say, it's not adding up. And the part of it that I understand is like Sean McDermott, his job is defense. And in losses, they're giving up like an average of 30 points a game in the playoffs. But I don't know what he's working with. Like, and so I look at the GM and I'm like, he got promoted? He got promoted and Sean got fired? Like, I know I'm not alone in this thing where it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not saying Sean McDermott should be absolved of all these playoff losses, but the roster to me is the problem. Where would you rank the Bills roster out of all the teams that were left this weekend?
Chris Long here on the Rich Eisen Show. I got 2 more for you to pitch for you to swing at. First one is, what do you think the Eagles need to do, Chris? What do you think?
They need to hire a cheat code offensive coordinator, okay? We talk about this thing a lot. You know, like bring somebody out of retirement or find somebody who's aged out or is not. Find yourself a Dennis Allen because you have one on defense and his name's Vic Fangio. He's not getting a head coaching job. He doesn't want one, I don't think. Find a Josh McDaniels. I know it's easier said than done.
Yes.
Because Jalen Hurts, if he's your guy in the future, and he's got deficiencies for sure, but he's had to deal with a different coordinator every year. And, you know, I know other guys that have had to deal with that. There's like Baker Mayfield and that sort of thing, but like the variability has just been too up and down. And so you got to find somebody, if he's your quarterback of the future, to give him some, I don't know what the word would be, some familiarity year in and year out. And I also think obviously you could pivot and say, we're about to enter like the post Jeff Stoutland's All-Stars era, which is like the offensive line's been the main character on this team for the better part of a decade. You need to realize that, and you need to plan for not the group falling off, but this year it wasn't very good, right? And so you're a defensive football team that needs to inform your decision making, and offensively you need to find a guy. I would like a West Coast, like a true West Coast offense, kind of like true West Coast offense. More play action, more under center, more tight end, more motion, more of the things that people, Eagles fans complain about not seeing. If it is a Jalen Hurts thing, all right, buddy, rubber is meeting the road here. Like, you have to do some things you're uncomfortable with going forward. Like, if that was what it was, and I'm not absolving the OC, he lost his job for a reason. But if there are certain things that they had to withhold that, are not quarterback preferences, then they have to press him to do those things this offseason. The guy's won a Super Bowl. He's beaten Patrick Mahomes on the biggest stage. Do I think he's one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the NFL? No. But that's perfectly fine, dude. You can win with Jalen Hurts. You have in the past. You have to build some continuity, and you have to press him, challenge him to do things he's not comfortable with. And you also have to realize that the process has to speed up because the offensive line's not as good as it's been in the past. And I think A.J. Brown's, to be honest, like I did see some some aging this year. I still think he's a really good player. But like you see it on some of these balls where he's got to go down and get it, like a little bit of like he's looking like an older player a little bit sometimes. Now I agree with everything AJ Brown was saying all year, because I said it on this show like week 3, and y'all put me on ESPN on the
Oh, come on.
And it's fine because I ended up being friggin' right. You can't get away with playing that way. When you're sitting there 3-1 and everybody's like, we're 3-1. What's everybody upset about? Well, I don't know. What you're projecting is the way the offense looks over a 17-game season, and into the playoffs, you score 19 points on San Francisco's defense. Hey, pull somebody on the street, name 7 players on that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Name 3 players on that defense. I know the players, but like there's no household names. Lenore's their best player, right? He's a damn good player. I like some of the young players. I'm not taking anything away from him, but the guys up front, like you should be able to, if you're Philly, vintage Philly football, you score 40 points on that group. So something's changed. And I think part of it is the personnel, but part of it is they lost the plot with the scheme.
Well, listen, we can't control the aggregation, sir. We just provide the microphone. But before I let you go, last thing now, because I picked up what you're putting down. You like Seattle this weekend, right? That's what you said. And then for the AFC Championship game, we set it up by saying obviously the Patriots are playing very, very well, but your pal Nick Foles went top rope on his post here. Firing away that a positive note going to the game against the Patriots is that they struggle against backup quarterbacks in championship type games.
I love Nick. Nick is the nicest dude in the world. And like, honestly, like he's a mensch, but he will legitimately sometimes flex his muscle a little bit as being like the guy that beat Brady. Like he likes doing that. And it's not in an arrogant way. It's like, look at me, regular Joe. I beat Tom Brady. And so I hope Nick makes all the money. If Denver goes to the Super Bowl, I hope Nick makes $1 million. It couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah, right. So, and obviously, Kurt Warner will be talking about it on Wednesday's show, no doubt about it. So, do you like the Patriots at the end of the day, or what do you think?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I got to really
Seahawks
as the week goes on.
Okay.
And I think Seahawks would be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
As the week goes on, I kind of I'll like somebody on Monday or Tuesday, but then really, and some people might know what I'm talking about. You don't really know until Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And so check back with me Saturday, but I do think Denver can keep it. Obviously, I think New England's the favorite, but you got to have a plan for the rushers. And I think Denver could go tempo. I think they could make you uncomfortable. I think they're going to pull every trick out in the book. And you got a hell of a coach leading the way for them in Sean Payton.
Who's on green light this week? What do you got?
It's the same thing, dude. It's like I'm one day at a time out here, Rich. I don't have like an army of bookers.
All right. Just let me know if you need me.
Just to say, hey, you got a guy. I don't have a guy. You got a guy.
I'm in the pen. Whenever you need me, just call for the right-hander. I'll come on out, okay? I'm here for you.
Hey, dude, by the way, last thing.
Sure.
Kyle Whittingham.
How about it?
Is one of my favorite college football coaches of all time.
Come on in.
You guys nailed it, and you hired my friend Marcus Hagans to help with the receivers.
Let's go.
Shout out to that coaching staff. I can't wait to put some Michigan gear on and go watch games.
Chris, welcome. I'm happy to have you in our circle and thrilled that we got lucky. We got lucky in a very difficult time to land Kyle Whittingham. So I'm thrilled to hear that.
Former Ram.
I know that with Suge Knight. Do you know that?
Suge Knight.
Do you know
Suge
that?
Knight was like,
yeah.
Whittingham's a badass. When Suge Knight.
It's a true story. These are all true stories. Chris, thanks for the time, man. I always appreciate it. You're the best.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.